More now on our top story. North Korea's missile test. U.S. officials have confirmed to Fox News that launch was, in fact, an intercontinental ballistic missile, an ICBM as it's known. And one American scientist is saying it could have the potential to reach Alaska. Former State Department spokesperson Marie Harf joins me now. She worked at the department for years while it was dealing, of course, with North Korean threat. She is also a Fox News contributor. Marie, President Trump has said his patience is over. He reportedly told the Chinese president the U.S. may be forced to act unilaterally against North Korea. So what would that look like? So far, of course, the U.S. has resisted military options.
Well, the military options, let's start there, are not good ones. North Korea today has about 10 to 20 nuclear weapons. They have enough artillery pointed at South Korea that could really take out the entire city of Seoul. So if there are military options being looked at, and I actually think that there probably are, and there probably should be, given this game-changing news we've heard today, they're not great ones. And you even heard in the previous segment General McMaster saying nobody wants to have to take that. So when we look at the landscape of military options, they're not very good, and I think that's one of the big challenges here.
Well, look, the alternative is, yet again, diplomacy. It always fails with North Korea. I mean, go back to 1991. They signed an agreement with the U.S. not to nuclearize. They cheated. We signed a new one in '94. They cheated again. You know, then we've instituted a series of sanctions over the last 11 years. They ignore them with impunity. So, honestly, aren't there two options here? We either undertake a military option directly against him to overthrow the Kim Jong-un regime, or we simply live with the nuclear threat.
Well, I think you just laid out the challenge here and why this is probably the toughest national security issue we face today. And you're right, negotiation is always an option, but I've seen no signs that they're willing to come to the table. I mean, just look at what they did to Otto Warmbier. I mean, this is a regime that is not acting in a way that would lead to diplomacy. So we can do things like shore up our missile defense. I heard Lucas talking about that a few minutes ago. Missile defense is not very reliable, but it's one tool, and we can try and put more sanctions on. Look, the fact that China has said they're complying with sanctions, but yet in the first quarter of this year, they actually increased trade with North Korea. That's a problem. So we need to look to countries like China to put their money where their mouth is.
But China never helps us. I mean, we have pleaded and begged and tried to twist arms and persuade China for more than a decade, and they won't lift a finger. Yes, for a while, they decided they would not give coal to North Korea, which North Korea badly needs, but they were probably cheating on that. I mean, they're not going to come to our aid, are they?
Well, I think if there's a reason that it's in their interest to do so, they will. They're not going to do this out of the goodness of their hearts. You're absolutely right. So I think we need to do all of the above. We need to shore up South Korea's missile defense. We need to shore up our own missile defenses. We need to take a hard look at military options and what that might look like. And we also need to keep the door open to diplomacy, because at the end of the day, we don't want a situation where we have to act unilaterally. We have to put American men and women in harm's way and have to take a step that may not even have the outcome we want. So this is a very complicated situation. I want to see the State Department and the Defense Department really beef up their Asia experts who can be a part of this. They're not in place yet, and I think that would help the team a lot.
Well, isn't it a good thing that we have the THAAD anti-missile defense system now in place, operational, fully loaded? It uses kinetic injury to knock down a nuclear missile. And all the people that oppose the THAAD system, it's a good thing we insisted on it, isn't it?
That's right. And actually, in the Obama administration, when I was at the State Department, it was one of our top priorities to get that system operational. But to be very clear, missile defense, even as good as it is in the, that we develop, is not perfect. And we don't want a situation where the only tool left is relying on this missile defense system that sometimes works and oftentimes doesn't. There's 10 million people sitting in Seoul today that I think would be worried about that.
Which may mean a direct military option is the only alternative if diplomacy fails. Marie Harf, always good to see you. Happy Independence Day. Thank you for being here.
Happy 4th.
By North Korea, a top priority for President Trump as he attends his first G20 summit this week in Germany. The other will be his first face-to-face meeting with Russian President Vladimir Putin. The president will also pay a visit to NATO member Poland, where they're looking for reassurances of the defense alliance intentions from Moscow.
The fact that President Trump has got his own forces here on ground in Poland, and that he invested more in the financially also in the security of our region, and that he prolongs the financial support for this presence of his troops in Poland towards more than that was intended previously.
Kristen Fisher is live in Warsaw, Poland. Kristen, let's begin with the North Korean missile test. How is the president responding?
Well, Molly, President Trump is really responding by putting a lot of pressure on North Korea's neighbors, and he's going to be meeting with a lot of those nations' leaders at the G20 summit a little bit later this week. But let's take a look at what President Trump said earlier today on Twitter. He said, quote, "North Korea has just launched another missile. Does this guy have anything better to do with his life? Hard to believe that South Korea and Japan will put up with this much longer. Perhaps China will put a heavy move on North Korea and end this nonsense once and for all." You know, President Trump has said repeatedly that the time for strategic patience is over. The problem is that when it comes to North Korea, there are no good options, and that's been said repeatedly by many experts and many folks within the Trump administration as well. Molly?
Kristen, there are some highly anticipated meetings. What do you expect will be the highlights of President Trump's second foreign trip?
Well, I think you can expect to see two big moments out of this trip. The first is going to take place on Thursday here in Poland when President Trump speaks directly to a big crowd of Polish people, and he's going to be speaking in an outdoor square, the same square that was used really as the center for the uprising against Nazi occupation back in 1944. So that'll be a big moment. And then the other big moment will take place on Friday at the G20 summit in Germany, the first face-to-face meeting between Russian President Vladimir Putin and President Trump. The problem facing President Trump is that both of those audiences want two totally different things. You know, Poland sits right on the border with Russia. It's very wary of Moscow. So they want President Trump to really reconfirm its commitment to NATO, especially the alliance's military buildup in Eastern Europe, which ramped up after Russia-backed forces invaded Ukraine and includes about 1,000 U.S. troops currently on the ground there. But on the other hand, President Putin, he wants the exact opposite.
Trump has to choose really here to some extent. He has to choose whether he's going to prioritize the NATO alliance, prioritize transatlantic security and standing with European countries to deter Russia, or prioritize improved relations with Russia.
Now, when President Trump lands here in Poland tomorrow night, he'll likely receive a much warmer welcome than the one that he's going to receive in Germany. That's because Poland, like the U.S., is now run by a conservative government that favors restricted immigration policies and opposes many environmental regulations. It's also one of the few NATO allies to meet its commitment to spend about 2% of its GDP on defense. So there's a lot of similarities between the Trump administration and the Polish government. The question, though, is will they differ on the one issue that matters most, Russia? Molly?
It will be fascinating to see what sort of reception President Trump receives on this second trip. Kristen Fisher from Poland, thank you.
Welcome, everyone. The rain stopped just as we came out. I don't know what that means, but it's not bad. And happy 4th of July. Great honor to have you with us. Melania and I truly appreciate and celebrate America's independence with those who courageously defend our country, the men, women, and families of the United States military. It is because of you that well over 300 million American citizens can live in freedom. There is one military family here today I am especially excited to recognize: our great Vice President, Mike Pence, and our second lady. Never heard that term before, but that's what they say. And she is some lady, that I can tell you. Of the United States, Karen Pence, are here along with their son, Marine First Lieutenant Michael Pence. Where's Michael? Great. It's great, Michael. Michael, not only are your parents proud of you, not only am I proud of you, but America, Michael, is very proud of you. Thank you. And America is proud of all of the brave men and women who serve in every branch of our great military. We have outstanding representatives of each service, each branch. They're with us today. We have Army, we have Navy, we have Air Force, we have Marines, we have Coast Guard. We love our Coast Guard. Representing the United States Army is Captain Jean Guan. She served 14 years, and today she is company commander in support of Old Guard, where she oversees the 120 soldiers who protect the tomb of the unknown soldier. It's beautiful. Captain Guan is joined today by her husband, Captain James Falwell. Thank you both for your service, and thank you to every soldier here with us today and serving our nation and serving us all around the world. You are truly the Army of the free. From the Marines, we have Marine Sergeant Yannick Tumokunde. He's with Marine Helicopter Squadron 1, an outfit I've come to know and admire very much since arriving at the White House. Sergeant Tumokunde is senior technician and is the sole chief martial arts instructor and trainer for the entire squadron. Thank you, and thank you for being here. And also, we lay claim to a very special title. You are a United States Marine. That is a special title. Thank you, Sergeant. From the Navy, we have Lieutenant Commander Allison Mabry, a Navy oceanographer. Her leadership has improved the atmosphere, and really what she's done is so incredible, having to do with sensing, modeling, and predicting the electromagnetic warfare capabilities of various countries that hopefully we won't be thinking about too much, but she's there and she's got the information like nobody has. We thank Allison and her husband, Lieutenant Commander Michael Mabry, here with their children, Emma, Lily, and Amelia. Our incredible sailors embody the Navy credo, not for self, but for country. Thank you. From the Air Force, we have Technical Sergeant Ralph Bunnell. Sergeant Bunnell is responsible for leading 50 security forces personnel that protect the President, the Vice President, and visiting foreign heads of state. A big job, a very important job. We want to thank you to Ralph and to your wife, Patricia. And thank you to every member of the Air Force who gives our nation total superiority in the air, striking fear into the hearts of our enemies and inspiring hope in the hearts of our friends all around the world. Finally, representing the Coast Guard, we have Petty Officer First Class Tony Franklin. Tony is a gunner's mate and is directly responsible for the armament of 17 units. He has led countless gunnery and pyrotechnic demonstrations, so I don't think the fireworks are going to impress him very much, but I will tell you they're going to impress you. Thank you, Tony. I want to thank everyone on the Coast Guard. I was at the Coast Guard Academy this year, gave the commencement address, and it was an amazing, incredible group of people and a really great day. Thank you, Tony, very much. Each of you here today represents that rare combination of patriotism, virtue, and courage that our citizens have always, and I mean always, admired. and that our enemies have always feared. At this moment, your brothers and sisters in arms are posted around the globe, fighting our enemies and standing watch to protect our nation. They're fighting for us. We are thanking them, praying for them, and saluting them for their selfless sacrifice. There could be no greater privilege than to serve as your Commander-in-Chief. I pledge my unwavering support for you, for your families, and your missions. I will always have you back. I will always, under all circumstances, you'll be coming back here, and I will always have your back. And I want to just tell you that our country is doing really, really well. No matter where you look, the economy is blazing, and on every front we're doing well. And we do have challenges, but we will handle those challenges, believe me. You're part of a new and a truly great generation. 2 days ago, I spoke with Lieutenant Colonel Dick Cole, who served as the co-pilot of the lead B-25 bomber pilot and piloted by Lieutenant Colonel Jimmy Doolittle during the daring 1942 raid after the attack on Pearl Harbor. Lieutenant Colonel Cole and the rest of the Doolittle Raiders launched their aircraft into the sky, knowing that they would not have enough fuel to return to friendly territory. That's not a good feeling. That's a lot of courage. Our servicemen and women are preserving the legacy of courage and selfless service that they inherited from Lieutenant Colonel Dick Cole and so many others. May God bless you all. May God bless our military. May God bless forever the United States of America. Thank you very much for being here. Happy 4th of July.
President Trump has made America First the centerpiece of his foreign and domestic agenda. And a recent survey shows that most Americans support the message. When it comes to foreign policy and national security, 66% approve of putting America first. And when asked if the government should have a Buy American, Hire American policy, 74% say yes, while only 26% support seeking the lowest price. To that end, the president has already signed an executive order requiring federal agencies to buy more goods and services from U.S. companies and workers. And while we've all seen those made in the USA stickers that show a product was manufactured here, now an Atlanta firm is going further, launching a new America First certification program. It lets businesses certify that they buy, hire, and source American using specific metrics. What do you think about this, Kennedy?
I think American companies are great. I support American manufacturing, but sometimes it's unrealistic to have all American parts, especially if you make things like computers or snowboards. But the rest of it, I am a very proud American, and my family does engage in manufacturing. So,
Sandra, I mean, there's another piece to this. You want people to buy American and use American, but you have to create a business climate where that's not more expensive, right?
But that would be okay to push that agenda and push that promise in President Trump's case if we had a climate where making those products was cheaper and more efficient, and the labor wasn't so expensive, because right now so many companies have to go outside of this country to make those products at a decent price. So doesn't the environment have everything to do with this?
I would say, yeah, sure. It has a lot to do with it. But just generally speaking, the phrase America First, I mean, What's the alternative? America fourth, fifth? It doesn't make any sense.
We're global citizens. That's what it is. I mean, that's what they were saying the last time. We're globalists, global citizens. That was like this big thing.
That's such a crock, by the way. Anytime anybody says they're a global citizen, I automatically don't want to hang out with them, and I really don't want to drink with them because they're really obviously obnoxious human beings. I cannot stand when people say that. I am such a proud American. I am not a globalist. America first. We are all Americans. And you should be. I hate that. I'm sorry. That's not directed at you, Melissa.
I wasn't saying it for myself. I was just
that way.
I think in Romania or Russia, they're saying Romania third or fourth. They're saying Romania first, Kenya first, Russia first. Everybody in their own country, they want to be first.
Yeah.
The phrase was tarnished beginning of World War II, excuse me, because of the anti-Semitic overtones. But it's a different America. Look, how can you be a beacon if your light don't shine? This has got to be a great country so we can be that beacon. And we have to take care of ourselves. The rest of the world, the Iraq war, going into the Iraq war, look at how we left. We slunk out of there. Ignominiously, we had to march out with a rear guard. And they went thanking us. Thank you for liberating us from Saddam Hussein. Thank you. They didn't care. The ingrates. America first.
It is interesting how much things have changed in this country, though, because American exceptionalism, of course, was a concept that I was taught in social studies, you know, when I was young, and they went through how manifest destiny and the whole, and over time, that has picked up a very negative undertone in academic circles. And then you had President Obama in the last administration really denouncing that idea, right, Kennedy?
Yeah, he denounced it, and he was also an apologist for this country and almost despised the Constitution. And, you know, it's interesting because I was talking to a woman in Colorado at a leadership program, and she wants to bring back the idea of civics in elementary school and high school, because that's something we've really lost touch with, you know, engaging with your community and being proud of where you live, you know, not only locally but in this country. And I think that's a wonderful thing.
We agreed to actively develop our mutual initiative based on Russia's step-by-step plan for Korean settlement and Chinese ideas, at the same time freezing the nuclear capabilities of DPRK and large-scale military exercises by the United States and Republic of Korea.
The era of strategic patience with the North Korean regime has failed. Many years, and it's failed. And frankly, that patience is over. The United States calls on other regional powers and all responsible nations to join us in implementing sanctions and demanding that the North Korean regime choose a better path and do it quickly, and a different future for its long-suffering people.
That was President Trump Friday, but this was something that happened last night. A firing of an ICBM, intercontinental ballistic missile, by the North Koreans. Just within this hour, the Secretary of State has released a statement saying, in part, global action is required to stop a global threat. Any country that hosts North Korean guest workers, provides any economic or military benefits, or fails to fully implement UN Security Council resolutions is aiding and abetting a dangerous regime. All nations should publicly demonstrate to North Korea that there are consequences to their pursuit of nuclear weapons, and we intend to bring North Korea's provocative action before the UN Security Council and enact stronger measures to hold the DPRK accountable. As you take a look at where this ICBM traveled, it was a splashdown about 480 miles away, but it's believed that this missile, a two-stage missile, could reach Alaska. And that is the big question about whether North Korea has been able to miniaturize its nuclear weapons to put it on a tip of one of these missiles. And this has changed the dynamic because this ICBM could reach the United States. Now, just within the past hour, also in this show, the U.S. announced that there are joint exercises ongoing with the South Koreans to test what they're calling the Army Tactical Missile System in response to this. This is ongoing. We expect to have video from the military momentarily of this U.S.-South Korean test of their anti-ballistic missile efforts. Kim Jong-un obviously celebrating what he's seeing as a major change of the dynamic here. Let's bring in our panel. Tim Farley, host and managing editor of Morning Briefing POTUS on SiriusXM Radio. Danielle Halper, contributing editor of the Washington Free Beacon. Michael Needham, chief executive officer at Heritage Action for America, and syndicated columnist Charles Krauthammer. Okay, Charles, read between the lines of Secretary Tillerson's statement there and the actions the U.S. is taking with South Korea tonight.
Well, I think the juxtaposition of the two clips you showed illustrates the issue and the reason why the Tillerson statement, I think, comes out rather ineffective. Putin is talking about using this crisis as a way to detach the United States from South Korea. In other words, China and Russia together want to see an end of the U.S.-South Korean alliance. They want to use the issue as a kind of an exchange in order to do that. We see this, and we should see this, as a direct threat to the security of the United States. It's an ICBM that can hit U.S. territory, and that would be absolutely catastrophic. We have completely different understandings of what the threat is, and Tillerson's statement simply says it's not a U.S. problem, it's a global problem. It is not. It's a U.S. problem. The global partners that we talk about are not that interested in solving it, and that's why all the importuning, all the sanctions, all the UN Security Council resolutions aren't going to do a damn thing. This is a threat to the United States, not to Russia, not to China, and therefore, as the President has said himself, we're going to have to solve the problem ourselves if we can.
But you don't think South Korea and Japan have a vested interest in trying to prevent North Korea from having a nuclear weapon?
They do, but they don't have the means. Only we do. And that's why they're clinging to the U.S. alliance. And that's why the Chinese and the Russians want to break it up, because it leaves them naked and exposed. But the Japanese have no alternative. The South Koreans have no alternative, because we provide the nuclear umbrella and their security. But we're being exposed as being impotent in doing this because we don't have the means to do it. The talk about a military option, I think, sounds to me fairly empty.
Michael.
Yeah, sure. I mean, I think it depends, though, Charles, how you're talking about the means. 10 years ago, we impounded $23 million from a Chinese bank, Banco Delta Asia, and for about 2 years, the North Koreans were really squirming under that pressure. What it requires is not necessarily a focus on the means or the tactics, but a complete strategic mind shift that says that in the past, we've tried to bring the North Koreans to the negotiating tables. President Clinton's agreed framework, President Bush's six-party talks, with a goal of getting them to accept denuclearization. We need a policy of active regime intolerance that says we're going to use economic pressure, we're going to use diplomatic pressure, we're going to use appropriate military pressure to make it very clear that there is no path forward for the Kim regime and to force them to come forward, because clearly the last 25 years of just thinking we can negotiate away nuclear weapons is something that's been an abject failure.
So the fact that you have Kim Jong-un, who has now launched more missiles than his father or grandfather combined, and he is doing so increasingly with success. I mean, it seems like this has changed the dynamic. Daniel, what do you see as a possible military response to that, considering the challenges of also possibly a mobile launcher this time?
Well, look, there could be cyber responses. I think we've done some in the past, or at least they've been rumored, and there are other ways to do it that are perhaps more subversive than overt military attacks. But you know, as Michael said, we've had 25 years of failed North Korean policy. When it's failed in the past, the presidents have sort of gotten away with it because their military hasn't yet been advanced enough to inflict pain on the United States. Now it's different. There's a new leader. He has new capabilities. And if we fail now, it could really, I mean, the possibility, I don't want to sound too grim or too alarmist, but there are serious life and death implications to American citizens, and it's really incumbent on the president to use those means to force North Korea to do something different, and it requires, I think, different thinking than we've had in the past.
Tim, the only time we heard from the president today was about military families on the 4th of July. We saw it on the South Lawn there. Secretary Tillerson obviously taking point on this statement. The tweet earlier from the president, North Korea has just launched another missile. Does this guy have anything better to do with his life? Hard to believe that South Korea and Japan will put up with this much longer. Perhaps China will put a heavy move on North Korea and end this nonsense once and for all.
Well, that sort of gets to the question that Charles mentioned, was Japan and South Korea really can't do anything. I ask these questions. I don't know what the answer is, obviously, to this, but I go back to something Richard Haas had said a long time ago. There is no self-correcting mechanism in international relations. In the case of the policy, we know that strategic patience is over. Has that been replaced by strategic impatience? Has it been replaced by tactical patience? Or is it just ad hoc Twitter taunts from the president? And his point that China was not going to be able to do anything, I think I'm a little concerned not just about what North Korea is doing, but the fact that we now have our inspections evidently closed off to our nuclear safety and security measures. They're keeping them quiet now, and you wonder what we can do that's proportional, whether it's cyber attacks or whatever, and what will get a response, because it is a U.S. problem. To Charles's point, this is something that the United States is going to have to respond to, and I don't know that you can build a coalition, especially if China is going to be in charge of the Security Council meetings this week.
Exactly. China is in charge of the UN Security Council, and there's supposedly a meeting in the works tomorrow afternoon to deal with this, but the prospects of getting something significant through with China in that point, and Russia obviously there as well.
I don't think it would make a difference if we were in charge of the Security Council. If we had the presidency, it would make no difference whatsoever. The Russians, it's a matter of the imbalance, the asymmetry of interests. Our interests are radically different from the Chinese and the Russians. And for 25 years, we've refused to accept that. The fact is, the others don't care. The missiles that are launched by Pyongyang are never headed west. They're always headed east. They're always headed our way. Everybody understands what the target is. So either we're going to act on our own, which is what the president says he'll do, or, and we are approaching the point, we're simply going to have to accept a nuclear North Korea the same way that under Mao Zedong, who was a fairly radical anti-American communist, we accepted the fact that China went nuclear as well. At a certain point, you bow to reality and you try to live in deterrence. It's not easy, it's uncomfortable, but I think we're going to reach that point where either it's going to be a binary choice. You go to war or you accept a nuclear North Korea.
A nuclear North Korea that clearly is trying to test missiles that get to the U.S. continental.
Which is absolutely unacceptable. And during the Cold War, we didn't just come to terms with a Soviet Union that had nuclear weapons on ICBMs pointed at the United States. We engaged in a policy that said at every single turn, we're going to figure out what is the most aggressive, appropriate response with regards to the Olympics, with regards to arms control, with regards to economic sanctions.
Time out. Let's just remind everybody, the 2018 Olympics, the Winter Games, are in South Korea. All of those countries that are going to send athletes to South Korea are going to do so potentially under this umbrella of uncertainty and security.
It's a fantastic point, and we need to make it absolutely clear that a nuclear-armed North Korea with weapons capable of reaching the United States under the Kim regime is absolutely intolerable to the United States. And that's where I think President Trump's comments on Friday were exactly spot on. It is time for a different mindset in approaching North Korea.
Today is a very special Independence Day for a group of new Americans.
People representing 48 countries took the oath of citizenship at a naturalization ceremony in Southport, North Carolina yesterday. Proud American correspondent Anna Koyman was there and joins us live. Good morning, Anna.
Here we are, Pete and Clayton and Abby. Good morning to you and everybody at home. We need everybody to get together and do a rain dance or an anti-rain dance. We've got to get this stuff to stop before the parade begins and the fireworks tonight. Good morning, and thank you for being with us here during our Proud American coverage. We did get to watch some very special memories being made yesterday for some newly minted Americans. More than 100 candidates for American citizenship took their oaths in a naturalization ceremony that was waterfront here in Southport. Some amazing moments to watch, and we're going to introduce you to a few of those new American citizens right now.
Oh, say, can you see by the
following 111 applicants for naturalization today. I will support the Constitution and the laws of the United States of America. Marie Fletcher.
I have somehow that American blood in me.
What makes you proud to be an American?
Just the freedom.
I came here to get away from war in my country. Crime. This place has basically everything people want, which is freedom of speech, religion, and safety.
The United States was always for me a country and the people of the United States to love.
So when you sing songs and hear songs, just proud to be an American or the Star Spangled Banner, does it have a new meaning for you today?
It has a different meaning. I think it makes me even more proud than I was before. I'm proud to be a part of the country that freed my country years ago. During World War II, my parents and grandparents, both sides, got deported by the Nazis, and they were freed by the Americans. And so we always looked up to our liberators.
I see a sticker here. Oh, yeah. I registered to vote today. How does that feel?
It feels good. Finally, I can vote, and that's a good feeling for sure.
So how are you going to celebrate today and when you go home?
Honestly, drink a beer with my family.
And the new American citizens represent 48 countries from 8 regions around the world, and now they have the same rights as you and me, and we at Fox News would like to be some of the first to say a big congratulations. They've shared their pride with us. Now we would like you at home to share your pride with us. Use the hashtag #ProudAmerican.
Using your green to help the red, white, and blue. David Seligtar is here, the CEO of Keep America. His company sells only American products to try and boost business and job creation right here in the U.S. of A., and including hiring veterans. David, tell us about what you're doing, because you have a whole array of products in front of you.
Yes, what we're all about is, job creation and boosting the American economy by buying American-made products. Not only that, but we believe, obviously, in keeping jobs here. Now, what we do, we have many veteran-owned and operated organizations and companies on our site. Everything you see here is veteran-owned and operated. They give back to veteran and as well as military causes. In the front is a new energy drink that's just been launched, and we give back 5% of our gross sales to Hire Heroes USA for job training and job placement for our veterans and their spouses. Here is a brand called Heroes Vodka. This man, Travis McVeigh, is the CEO, former Marine Guard for George Bush Sr., President George Bush Sr. Phenomenal brand, gives back 25% of their profits to AMVETS. And again, we're all about not only just the job creation, but the quality of the work these organizations and these companies do, giving back to our troops as well as our veterans.
There are dog treats here, Bogart's Barkery, dog treats. But in terms of, do people, just as general consumers, really respond when they feel like that they are supporting an American business and supporting one backed by veterans?
They do. They do. Everyone, first of all, realizes the need. It's been well documented, all the troubles with the VA and everything veterans go through. So it really does help. People have finally understood and the consumer demand. And major retailers, for example, Walmart, have tremendous initiatives now. Consumer demand really is the strongest thing we have as customers, as a nation. So it really does make a huge impact.
Yeah, I've heard Ken Langone say over and over and over again, one of the founders of Home Depot, that he's never, ever made a mistake hiring a veteran.
That's right.
That what they bring to the table in terms of work ethic, organization, management skills is really unparalleled. Do you think that all business owners understand that?
I don't know, but you know what? They should, because the efficiency, the job training, they pick things up so quickly. And like you said, the work ethic really is unparalleled to most people out there. So we hire veterans as well. We're honored to have them. They really are heroes, and you know, we just try and support them any way possible.
And in terms of these American companies and these companies that where veterans work, that are founded by veterans, when people leave the military, are there opportunities out there for them? Are enough companies stepping up in terms of giving them jobs, training, experience, and even the ability to be promoted? You know, every bit helps. That's what we try and do. We try and get them out there. We bring the traffic to our site and bring the attention to them. As I mentioned with the beverage, Hire Heroes, you know, they really focus on that. There are other organizations as well. But people don't realize when you buy American made, not only does it help that one organization, that one company, but there's like a ripple down effect. There's actually 8 different states involved in the production of that, from the can to the co-packing, distribution. So it really spreads like a wildfire across the country, creating jobs in many different aspects and many different states. And people, they love the red, white, and blue for so many reasons. But David, thank you so much for being here. David Selichtar.
Pleasure.
It's great to see you. Happy 4th of
You
July.
too. 4th of July.